In the past few years, we've heard the term free agents and been told we would all need to become one in order to succeed. The recent economic structures have helped to promote this concept as reality. Where do we get the tools to take control of our career path in the present and future? Welcome to The Career Confidant with your host, Marie Zimenoff. Marie and her guest experts are here to provide you with the tools you need to move forward and achieve your career goals. Now, here is Marie Zimenoff.
Hello and welcome to the Career Confidant, and we're glad to have you here today. And you're going to be glad that you joined us because we're going to be talking about some new topics, some topics we've covered before but are coming back into the news, and then some of the ways that technology is changing the job search and your career in general. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the market right now. And what we're seeing, one of the things we're seeing is that you've got a change in the job market in the last 6 months or so. So we know that unemployment is low. There's a lot of positivity out there in the market. And yet we're seeing a group of people, a growing group of people who seem to be stuck finding work. They're struggling to find that next job. And these people are in fields that maybe haven't struggled to find work in the past. So we're seeing some struggles in what they call white collar works, the tech space, middle-level jobs, mid-level jobs, and seeing some of the consulting agencies laid off a bunch of people. So I think that's creating some of this and just challenge in the market, a flood of the market, if you will, in some of those positions and at levels that people weren't used to, and kind of struggling in their search. And what are we going to do about that? How are we going to search differently? And that's going to lead us into a conversation talking a little bit about ageism and some things I'm seeing that people are doing that are maybe making ageism more apparent for them, and then how you can change up your job search a little bit to be more effective. Now, I will say right off the bat that there isn't a golden ticket. There isn't a golden ticket. A lot of times there isn't anything someone is doing wrong in their job search. It's simply that there's just a lot of again, there's a lot of people on the market right now. It's a challenging market. And so how do you manage that? How do you navigate that? And realizing that it's just a process of continuing effort, not necessarily, again, that someone might be doing anything wrong, but that we just have to keep doing it and find small ways to make little improvements along the way, while being careful not to, on one end, kind of beat our head up against a wall, and on the other end, throw the baby out with the bathwater when we might have something that is a good strategy. It just hasn't come around to being, having the result we want it to yet. And that happens, right? Where you're doing all the right things, that doesn't necessarily mean that you will get exactly what you want just because you're doing the right things. And I think sometimes that's a challenge. We think, oh, I'm doing all the right things. Why can't I get the job? Well, we'll talk about that a little bit. So let's start with this conversation around ageism. So we know that the population is aging. And so this conversation always somewhat surprises me when we're talking about how we need to do better in the workplace because there's a large population of the workplace that is already more than 30. But what we're seeing is a persistence of ageism starts mid-30s for women, which is just mind-blowing, mid-40s, early 40s for men. And you're seeing that combined with still the mom penalty. I was talking to someone just today talking about how they're working with someone that they're pretty sure is facing this bias because they've got young kids, and they're kind of in that tech men's world. So we still are seeing some of these things come up. But I want to talk specifically about ageism, and if we can talk about it on your resume first, and then we'll talk about it in the remainder of your job search, and what that means, what that looks like. So here's the thing I see in the first line of a lot of resumes. And I just gave one of our professional resume writing students, feedback on this today, is your years of experience. Now, no matter what those years are, this one had 8, there's not a right number. It's either too much or too little. But what it tells me right away is that you're putting the value on the years, not necessarily what you've achieved. And that's an outdated way to brand ourselves, right? It just, no, everybody's in the what have you done for me lately space, not how many years have you been in the workforce space. It's just not, it's not where we are right now. And so it's interesting. I put a poll out there, I don't know, maybe 18 months ago on LinkedIn and asked recruiters, what do you think about this number? And they said that they do like the number. Yeah, we'll take that with a little grain of salt because, again, what is exactly the right number and how does it help you or hurt you? There's this sweet spot, probably somewhere between 7 and 15 years that you could put on the summary. But I want to make sure you're tweaking it. First, I don't love to see it in the entry line on your resume or LinkedIn profile or anywhere, simply because it says, this is what I think is the most important. And almost nobody thinks that's the most important, is how many years you've been working. So that's first thing, is let's get it out of the first sentence. Second thing is couch it in value, not years of working. So instead of saying I have 10 years of experience in coaching, that doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't tell you if I'm good, doesn't tell you if people liked me, doesn't tell you, it just doesn't tell you anything when all I list are those years of experience. So we want to figure out, okay, how can we share it in terms of value? So 7 out of 10 years, you've achieved quota. So you could say something like that. Or the 10-year record of doing this, or delivered X repeatedly during 10-year tenure, but you know what I'm saying? You want it to be in value. So you want to think, okay, if I've been in the workforce for 10 years, what is one of my repetitive accomplishments where over and over I deliver this, I do this over and over again? And you're thinking about that when you're writing your materials, because that summary section is a summary. It's the thread of what do you do over and over again? How do you deliver value over and over again? And when you think about it like that it's not about it's not about your years of experience. It's about what you've brought to those years of experience. And we kind of assume that people think, oh, if I've been in this type of role for 10 years, of course I've achieved these things. But we don't want to assume that. We want to focus on the achievements, not on the years of experience. And that's just one of those things that people really struggle with when they're thinking about doing, especially the first part of their resume, because you want it to be an overview of everything you've done, but it really needs to be an overview of what you've achieved. And those are different things. So sit down and think about those best accomplishments, the accomplishments that are most related to the jobs that you'll be targeting. And instead of summarizing your work history, summarize those accomplishments that are most applicable to your audience. And a lot of times in a summary today, I might have one short branding kind of statement, but then I'm going to go right into the accomplishments that reflect those brand themes. So here are the main skill sets you're wanting to demonstrate. What are the main accomplishments in those skill sets or that demonstrate those skill sets? And instead of telling me that you're results oriented, right, list the results. Give me the accomplishments that show those results, and those specific key things up at the top of the resume can really make a big difference. So thinking about how you brand yourself at the very top. And a lot of recruiters don't read that section. Hiring managers do. But even if the recruiter is not reading that section, they see that first line with your years of experience. And right away, especially depending on their generation that they're in, right away it tells them that you're out of date or whatever it might be. So you want to think about that summary part of your resume. It's so critical. The way you're thinking about it, the way that you're conceptualizing it is so important. And that concept is, how are you going to demonstrate or prove the top skills for the job? That's your goal for that section. And a lot of people miss that. Then there are some things that people do for ageism that are a little bit more tactical, right? So that part's very strategic. The next part is a little bit more tactical when you think about, okay, what do you need to put in terms of years of experience? Most people will say about 15 years. That's really going to depend on how far back in your history you want to go. It depends on how old you are. I don't like to leave a huge gap between your age and the age on your resume. So if you're 60 and you only have 15 years of experience on your resume, it looks really weird when you walk through the door, because I was expecting someone who was 40, right? So I'm careful not to make too much of a gap there. I might put a few more years on the resume. And then, of course, there's a whole bunch of ways that we can summarize the old experience at the end of the resume without listing specific dates. That doesn't create such a gap, but also doesn't give them the opportunity to calculate those dates. If you want some of the examples and to see resumes that have it on there, go to the Career Thought Leaders YouTube page. Our Career Thought Leaders YouTube page has a resume playlist, and we show examples during our Trend Tuesday lives. And you can see some of those examples. Now, if you are a resume writer, so in addition to Career Thought Leaders, the show is also sponsored by Resume Writing Academy. We have a list of resume writers on our page who've been certified. They go through a very strenuous process to become certified. And we teach resume writers how to do resume writing. That's how they get certified. So go on there and you can find a resume writer, or you can find resume writing training if you're interested in that. And you can get the ins and outs of how to avoid ageism on your resume. The two main things, that summary section, really watching your strategic positioning, and then some of the tactics around how many years you include. When we come back, I'm going to give you a few other things you want to think about on your resume for ageism, and then we'll dive into a few other topics and the upcoming economy and how you can massage your job search to better fit today's jobs that are available. We'll be right back in just a few minutes.
Follow Voice America at facebook.com/Voice America for juicy updates from your favorite radio shows and podcasts.
You know that the career landscape has changed and that you need to be proactive about managing your career. You can have the foresight, skills, and confidence you need to take charge of your career and seize opportunities. A strategic advantage and career expert, Marie Zimenoff has helped thousands of leaders like you get focused, get found, and get hired. Visit getcareersmart.com to find out more. That's getcareersmart.com, or call 800-521-2080 to schedule your complimentary consultation.
Voice America programs are now available on your favorite connected device, including Amazon, Alexa, and Google Home. Through streams with Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio, listening to your favorite show is as easy as saying the show name followed by the word podcast.
Hey, Alexa, play Finding Your Frequency podcast.
If that doesn't work, try adding on TuneIn or on iHeartRadio or on Apple Podcasts.
When it comes to business, you'll find the experts here. Voice America Business Network.
You are tuned in to the Career Confidant with Marie Zimenoff. If you have a question or comment for Marie or her guest today, please call 1-866-472-5790. That's 1-866-472-5790. You may also send an email to marie@strategicadvantage.com. Now, back to the Career Confidant.
Welcome back to the Career Confidant. And today we were talking about ageism as one of the trends in the workplace. And we're going to talk a little bit about the job market and tweaking your job search as well. When we think about ageism on the resume, that first section, how you list that is so important. Then, of course, we know that as you go back into your work history, when you get into those later jobs, avoiding the years for those older jobs can be really helpful. And there's many other ways you can do that. You can summarize, you can group the jobs, you put older experience and kind of give an overview statement without the years. I typically put about 15 years on the resume, but again, for some positions that are higher level, we might do more years than that. For some people who are a little bit older, we might do more years than that, because we're trying to find that balance between not allowing people to calculate your age on your resume, but also not making you look way different than how you're going to show up in that resume or in the interview. So those are some of the things that we want to think about. Also, small things. The phone number. You know how you put the parentheses around it? And I know a lot of online systems still do that with the parentheses around it, but that's from the days when you didn't have to dial all 9 digits. So when you use just small things like that, especially when you combine a whole bunch of the small things we're going to talk about, it can make this outdated look. Stacking your contact information all in the middle of the resume. So your name, then your address and everything together, all in the middle for, 3 or 4 lines. It's outdated. Today, we usually spread the information out, make it take less lines, use some kind of borders or shading. It doesn't have to be fancy, but just a little bit of a touch that is modern instead of outdated is going to be helpful. Your LinkedIn, you want to have it on there. It's great if you have it personalized, so you can edit your URL for LinkedIn and take away all the letters and digits and things at the end. That can help you look more modern. You want to think about the language that you use throughout the document. Is it updated? Is it current? Is it what people are using right now? Not just for keyword matching, but for that piece of, hey, I'm up to date, I'm current in the market. And we just want to make sure that all of your language shows that it matches what the industry is currently talking about. And we want to go through your resume and think about that. Some of the other small things, double spacing after sentences, it's a little outdated. I know it depends on which style guide you follow, but in a resume, we usually don't do that, and it can make you look outdated. There was one other thing that I was just talking to someone about these recently, but it's mostly that formatting piece. Oh, I had someone that wrote to me and wanted samples for resumes, and they were using the underline feature. There's just little things like all caps. All caps can be considered outdated. I still might use them for section headings, but I'm really careful not to overuse all caps. And you might think, oh, these things are all really small, and I totally agree with you. And they usually don't make a difference unless you use many of them and you are also older or have many, a long history on your resume. So it's this, the effect of them all adding together can make that document look outdated, even though they are small little changes that you're making. And of course, since they're small little changes, they're easy to make, and we can do that and make our resume look more modern pretty quickly. Things like graphics don't necessarily make your resume look more modern, aren't going to make you look younger. It's more, again, that strategic alignment between what you do and the language that your industry is using, plus small touches like borders and maybe a little bit of color or gray shading that can make something look a little bit more modern without overdoing the design and trying too hard. Oh, that depends on your industry, of course. Now, when you get into thinking about the other parts of your job search, these things are not going to just impact ageism, but we're going to talk about job search a little bit here more generally. We all know that your network is the best way to get into a role. Over and over again, for decades, research has shown that employers prefer to hire people who are referred into the job from other people. So they want someone who someone says, hey, this is someone you should hire, they incentivize people thousands of dollars sometimes, that if you refer someone to the company who ends up staying, we will give you an incentive. And there was a moment in time a couple of years ago where referrals somewhat fell out of favor in the conversation, although I'm not ever sure they fell out of favor in the actual hiring. But now that has died down. I'm not hearing much of that. We're seeing a resurgence of referral programs, a resurgence of people wanting to find ways to get those easy connections in, especially as they're being inundated by applications because of some of the other technologies that we'll talk about here in just a second. So how do you leverage technology to better engage your network? Because it's not about, again, throwing the baby out with the bathwater and saying, okay, we're not going to network because we've got all these cool new technologies. And it's also not about avoiding the technology. That's a great way to make yourself look older than maybe even you are when you're avoiding technology or saying things. I'd be careful about what you say online and when you're networking about technology, because you can sound outdated or stuck in your ways if you're talking about new technologies in too much of a negative way. Having a great critical discussion about things is different than saying, years ago, people say, well, I'm not on the Facebook. And it's like, oh boy, statements like that can really come across as naive. And now, of course, that's shifted. And now a lot of people aren't on Facebook for reasons. But we just want to be careful about our negativity around technology can be perceived as out of date, out of touch, stuck in our ways, all of those things that we know we get, especially if we are in that age group of 40 or older who are going to be experiencing that ageism. One of the things that is happening in the tech space is an explosion of systems that will help you apply online. And Lazy Apply, Loop CV was actually around before ChatGPT. Loop CV we started experimenting with in 2021. So these types of software have been around for a while, but now they're getting better and faster at applying online for people. So there's a bunch of them. Some of them are more human enabled or require that human interaction, and some of them really promote the automated features. You see news articles talking about how people have used these services and gotten jobs, but you want to be really careful about what level are they talking about, what types of jobs are they applying to, and how is that going to work for you? And then realizing that you are paying to be in the large swimming pool. So, we don't really want to be in the swimming pool. I mean, we want to apply to jobs that are a good fit for us. But we know that those pools have gotten huge. We're talking thousands of applicants to some open positions right now because of these automated systems. So you're paying to be one of thousands. You just want to be really careful about that decision. Is it a good fit for you? Is it going to work for you? You can try it. You can play around with it and see what you think, and be vigilant, right? Be vigilant of where's your information going? What kind of companies is it going to? I prefer the ones that give you the human interaction so that you can connect with those and see, is it a job I want to apply to or not? Is it something that I want to send my information to or not? All of those questions. I like when you can answer that versus just having it really automated for your application, which some of them will do. So these new technologies, they're just changing the job search. They're changing hiring. You've got recruiters trying to figure out how are they going to deal with all of these applications that they're getting, because it's overwhelming. And so you're going to see a shift away from online applications. We're already seeing it, that people are changing the way they're hiring. They're changing the way they promote the positions. They're moving away from posting it to the public platforms, even LinkedIn. So LinkedIn's jobs feature, their job board is one of the ones that these lazy apply, Sloop CV, massive AI type systems can, they can access that. They can go in and look at the open jobs on LinkedIn and apply. So you just want to be careful about that. That it's causing them to shift how they hire. Now, that means that it's opening up opportunities. So they're going to networks. They're building networks. They're building meetups again, right? They're building communities that can help them get the right applicants instead of getting the flood of applicants. They're doing different things to get a better applicant pool. Now, one of the things that they're doing, and I'm super excited about this because we're going to learn more about Findem. So Findem and Seek Out and Araya are all recruiting softwares that allow a recruiter to build a profile of their perfect hire and then use these technologies to go out and kind of scrape the internet to find people that fit that bill. So I want someone in tech. They've got this experience. They've worked for these types of companies. I can even say they're from these types of organizations or these types of regions. I can look for diverse candidates, young, old, men, female. I can do all of that with these technologies and get an applicant pool that is more diverse and more specific to what I want to hire. So that means as a job seeker, you really want to be thinking about where can you start building these networks with a community in your industry, because that will help you build the relationships, which are most important, and then also build that visibility for these types of search systems. Some of the groups are going to be private, and so it won't do that kind of two birds with one stone where you're getting the visibility as well. But there are some public ways that you can build visibility towards your target industry as well. Posting content, engaging with content that is public, a lot of different ways that you can make that known that you are in that industry and that you're engaging in that industry. So if you are, again, a career services provider, we're doing our Tech Jam event this week. And you can always get the recordings too. Tech Jam, so careerthoughtleaders.com/Tech Jam. And you'll find we're going to get a demo of an applicant tracking system from a recruiter, going to get a demo of Findem from Annie Reeder at Findem, and get some ideas of how recruiters are using these new technologies and what that might mean for your job search. But you want to look for the opportunities that are opening up, because recruiters are shifting how they recruit with this flood of applications. They're going more personalized. They're going to communities. They're trying to build more referral bases. How can you start building relationships so that you're that person that's already known when they start looking for the referrals? That's, if there is one, right? That's the golden ticket, but it takes a lot of work to get there. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the technology that's changing the job search, how you can access some of that and leverage it for your own search, and close up with some more about your job search today. We'll be right back in just a few minutes.
Voice America is on LinkedIn. Connect with us today.
You know that the career landscape has changed and that you need to be proactive about managing your career. You can have the foresight, skills, and confidence you need to take charge of your career and seize opportunities. A strategic advantage and career expert, Marie Zimenoff has helped thousands of leaders like you get focused, get found, and get hired. Visit getcareersmart.com to find out more. That's getcareersmart.com, or call 800-521-2080 to schedule your complimentary consultation.
Have you become a member yet? Sign up now to become a member of Voice America. It's always free and easy. Plus, you get to take advantage of some great member benefits. Get unlimited access to millions of hours of on-demand content across all of our channels. Keep track of your favorite episodes, shows, and hosts in your own customizable library. Find out what shows you might be interested in based on your favorites. Plus, you get insider access with our newsletter. Membership gives you more. Sign up at voiceamerica.com and click register at the top right.
When it comes to business, you'll find the experts here. Voice America Business Network.
You are tuned in to the Career Confidant with Marie Zimenoff. If you have a question or comment for Marie or her guest today, please call 1-866-472-5790. That's 1-866-472-5790. You may also send an email to marie@strategicadvantage.com. Now, back to the Career Confidant.
Welcome back to the Career Confidant. We were just talking about how technology is really changing the job search, and technology on the applicant side causing this surge in applications. iSIMS it's an applicant tracking system, and they're saying that overall job applications are up 31% from January 2022 to April 23, and that's before this technology even took off. It was really still quite niche and not very well known at that time. So I would just shudder to know what the numbers look like now. And finance and technology jobs applications, 50% surge during that same time frame. And again, that was before a lot of these technologies even took off. So this is what recruiters are struggling with. And at this time, so this was 2023 article, late 2023 article, they were saying that 40% of recruiters see an issue with AI created applications and resumes. More recent data showed more than 50% of recruiters not liking when they can obviously tell that someone has used AI to write their resume. And you might say, well, what's the problem with that? And I would say, well, as a hiring manager, I can tell you I don't want to hire someone who may not have really done what's on their resume because ChatGPT wrote it. I don't want to hire someone who hasn't done what they said they say they can do, because I can't afford to hire someone that doesn't really know how to do the job. So I can see it from the recruiting standpoint. Yes, I know they're using AI, so it's somewhat unfair for them to say we can't use AI, but it's the reality of being in that hiring position. I need to know that people actually have done what their resume says they can do. And this is why we're looking for more specifics on a resume. We were talking about the very beginning, that summary section, and how powerful the specifics are in that section. And this is why, because when right away I can tell that your resume tells me what you have done, it's so much more worth my time to read than when right away I can tell the resume is either a copy and paste of job descriptions or something that AI wrote. It really has nothing to do with being against AI. It's being against a resume that doesn't clearly tell me what you did versus what that someone in that job is supposed to do, or what the job description is written. I know the job description. I already put it out there, right? I want to know what you did. And when you're using technology as a job seeker, and we teach this to our resume writing students as well, it's great to use the technology. We don't want to not use the technology. We do want to figure out how to make it work for us and not kind of against us. So use it to do your research. Use it to get the exact right phrases, keywords that are most important. And then what stories do I need from my background to demonstrate those skills? That's the part the technology cannot do unless you already had it on your resume, in which case you probably aren't going to, need that much help anyways. But it's those stories that demonstrate the qualifications from your background that's where you need to put the human time. is digging in and really understanding what are your main accomplishments that speak to those qualifications. And AI can help you with that. It can give you some what I call goalposts or templates, but you've got to be careful not to use those to the point where it's not your content. It has to be your stories and what did you do. Then you can analyze your resume, see what's missing, see what skill sets you still need to fit in there. You can ask it for, where are the gaps? But I would be careful asking it to target your resume. So here's a job description, here's my resume, target my resume. Because what it does over and over again is it removes your specifics. It puts in generics. It puts in keywords that may not be right. And yes, you go back and edit that. But I've just found it to be easier to ask for the gaps and then go back and pull out information and fill those gaps versus asking AI to fill those gaps for me. You can play around with it, see what works for you, but be extra careful to watch out for where it has removed your specifics in lieu of its generics. Yes, it's the right keywords, but it's generic. Be careful of that and be careful about where it's going to put things in that aren't necessarily true because it's just worried about the keyword match, right? It's not worried about accuracy. It's just worried about that. So when you put those pieces together, that's on the resume side. And I hear a lot of people talking about that, and it's great and it's very powerful there. We're missing the boat on a few other really cool things that these technologies can do. So about 18 months ago, we started playing around with creating some customer personas, customer avatars, your ideal client if you're in the marketing world. But you can do that with a hiring manager. So you find a profile similar to what your hiring manager will be, and you say, what is this person looking for when they're hiring for this role? So you've got the job description, you've got maybe a couple LinkedIn profiles that are similar to the person that would be hiring you. You can plug those all into ChatGPT. You can take out the identifying information for those profiles that you've pulled in and really look at what is this person wanting? What are they worried about? What's going on in the industry? What trends do they need help with? And you can run it in a few different systems. I like to use ChatGPT because it's very verbose. You've got to be careful because it's very verbose, so it can make things up. And then I might use a system like Perplexity. It's going to give us less information, but more about the trends, more about some of the information, more current information of what's going on. So I can use a few of those different systems, kind of fact check it. Obviously, kind of gut check it with what I know about the industry, what your client knows about the industry they've been working in. And I can go and look at a bigger, deeper picture of what does the employer really care about. And I always, kind of laugh when we talk about this because that's when I first started in this industry. One of the first classes that I took was, think like the employer, and how do you help your job seekers think like the employer? And now that whole idea, that concept has just gotten so much more powerful and specific, and you'll just be amazed at how spot on it can be, these AI tools, when you ask them the questions and you give them the information that they need to tell you about the hiring managers. And so we've been using those systems and playing around with that for a while. Now, the other piece of it is other AI tools that have nothing to do with generative AI, but help you understand who you're going to be talking to, especially for an interview, probably not as specific for a resume. But one of the demos that I'll be doing during our Tech Jam sessions is a review of some of the technologies that will give you a personality profile on an individual. You can also use ChatGPT to do this. We've been playing around with the prompts, the questions to ask to make the input or the output as good as possible. But you can see, okay, this person has preferences for this. And a lot of these systems use the DISC framework. and saying, okay, so this person, this is what they value. This is the types of conversations they'll have. These are some of the ways you want to approach them. And a lot of these technologies are written for salespeople, so you've got to adapt it for your purposes here in terms of connecting during a meeting or an interview or a presentation. I just see limitless opportunities to take the insights from these types of tools and use them to improve our communication. So you can look at that and take the insights and then have a better approach. That's all we're talking about. And you're still going to be authentic in your approach. You're just going to adjust your communication to meet their needs. So for instance, you do use one of these systems. One of them is Crystal. We've been talking about Crystal Knows actually since 2018, but Crystal, I think they seem to have dropped the nose now, but Crystal is a system that will do this. It will create reports for you, for people. And you can use that information to adjust how you might answer, tell me about yourself. It would be, could you adjust your answer to a behavioral interview question? So tell me about a time when. Well, now you know that this person has a specific thing that they value. They have a specific way that they work, and you can adjust your answer to that question a little bit to show them how it will apply to them. It's fascinating. I'm excited to go through it with some of our career services community and see what they think and how we could use some of these tools to really harness the power of AI beyond just, the generative AI and some of those things that we talk about, but to really get into and benefit from these systems. Now, the last thing that I'll say is these online application tools, some of them are very simple and they just fill out applications for you to make it faster. You still have to do all the work of getting the information ready and having the focus. But Simplify Jobs is one that is a browser extension that you could try. It's free. Again, just be careful because you're putting yourself in that pool, and it's going to work better for some types of roles than for others. Lazy Apply, which we talked about, Loop CV, Massive is another one that you can look at. And if you're at, I would say more of a mid-level or below, some of those systems might be worth looking into to see how they help you with the online application process. Just remember that our goal with that is to streamline the online application process so that you can spend more time researching, networking, making connections. It's not, I think we're going to be disappointed when we think, oh, if I do this, it's going to find me a job fast. It might, and there's nothing wrong with trying it, but don't take your eye off the ball in terms of the whole point is to bring more efficiency to that part of the process so you can do more networking, more research, more connecting to people that could help you be that referred candidate, and possibly through those systems, learn about other places that you can start trying to network towards so that you have more opportunities in addition to the ones you might have known about for yourself. So we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll wrap a little bow around this, give you some steps that you can take to avoid ageism while using technology in your job search. We'll be right back in just a few minutes.
Voice America is on your favorite smart speaker. If you have Alexa or Google Home, go ahead and give us a try.
Hey Alexa, play Finding Your Frequency podcast on TuneIn.
You know that the career landscape has changed and that you need to be proactive about managing your career. You can have the foresight, skills, and confidence you need to take charge of your career and seize opportunities. A strategic advantage and career expert, Marie Zimenoff has helped thousands of leaders like you get focused, get found, and get hired. Visit getcareersmart.com to find out more. That's getcareersmart.com or call 800-521-2080 to schedule your complimentary consultation.
Oh, look!
Little birdie told me Voice America is on X. Follow us at Voice America TRN.
Are you a business owner, 1099 contractor, part-time employee, or volunteer who needs group health coverage you can actually afford? Do you know a nonprofit who would benefit from unlimited zero-cost funding? How about cost reduction, school safety, mental health wellness, and more? All these and more are fair game on Finding Certainty. If you want more certainty in your own life, you are not alone. Join us each Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern on the Voice America Business Channel. Find your own brand of certainty and realize your personal American dream with Finding Certainty, hosted by Patrick Lang. Let's unwrap the certainty experience together.
Voice America Business Network, the bottom line in business.
You are tuned in to the Career Confidant with Marie Zimenoff. If you have a question or comment for Marie or her guest today, please call 1-866-472-5790. That's 1-866-472-5790. You may also send an email to marie@strategicadvantage.com. Now, back to the Career Confidant.
Welcome back to the Career Confidant. And today we did a little trip through some of the current trends in the careers and job search space, looking at ageism and how you can avoid ageism on your resume, some of the key things to look at there. And again, if you are looking for some examples, you want to see the actual resume, go through some of those examples, I recommend you check out our YouTube channel, Career Thought Leaders YouTube channel. And resumewritingacademy.com, we have some resources there as well, and some paid resources, workshops there that give you a bunch of samples as well. If you ever have any questions about those, feel free to reach out to me, Marie, M-A-R-I-E, at Career Thought Leaders, with an S there, careerthoughtleaders.com, and we can get you the resources that you need. When you think about age in applications, it's interesting because these technology tools are being kind of promoted as something for young professionals just getting into the workforce. But, I think it's great. It's a way to try and get in. Also want to be careful that you don't end up in just a job, but you end up in the job you want. Now, you might use those technologies to help you get a job and then use the networking to get the job that you really want while you have a job and can afford to live. So there's not an either or there. It can be a both and. We want to think about the technology that you use and the way that we start to build familiarity with technologies really does help build our brand as someone who's flexible, innovative, looking for ways to be more efficient, curious. Now, this doesn't mean we have to go after every shiny object, right? That's not the thing here. It's about finding ways that the technologies could add value for you. And if they don't add value for you, then you don't need to use them that way. You want to resist the urge to write it off before you even experiment or try or read or see what might be the best fit. That's what we really want to avoid. And so when we think about your job search, there's not going to be a golden ticket. It's going to be consistent action across a strong foundation of job search. So yes, you're applying online because you don't want to miss something that is a good fit for you, especially if you're applying directly through the company's website. You want to do that. You've got a target list of companies, and you're using that target list to systematically stay connected and improve your connections to the company. So I'm going to use my target list to make sure I'm applying to any job that is a 70% match or more for me. I'm going to go to their websites. I'm going to apply when it's a good fit. I can use some of these technologies to somewhat automate that, right? Some of them help you fill out the applications faster. That's great. Maybe I can use some of them to automate it even more. And that's fine. Just be careful with your application, making sure it's accurate, and making sure you have that visibility of where your information is going so you don't end up with a bunch of nonsense that you don't need to deal with. Then you're thinking about, how can I use technology to build relationships? So any kind of group, Discord, Slack, Facebook, LinkedIn, but people just don't engage that much in LinkedIn groups, so you can try them, but you want engagement. You don't want just to be a member of the group. You want people to be having conversations, answering questions, asking questions. Posting jobs is great, but you really want to find places where you can build community, where you can answer questions that people might be asking, where you could ask questions, where you might be able to post content, although a lot of these types of groups aren't as much about content. It's more about engagement and relationships, and that's what you want to find. And then also making sure that your public-facing online persona is clear about what you do, your experiences, your strengths, so that if there are recruiters using these new technologies, newish technologies, that you would be found as someone who is knowledgeable in that field, in that area, industry, role that they might be searching for. So you've got to have clarity and start building that so that they can find you if they're using those systems, those technologies. And that's it, right? It's the consistent effort of streamlining applications, applying to ones that are a good fit, and building relationships, connecting, engaging, so that you're that known quantity when the jobs you want are posted. And unfortunately, that's somewhat of a process you can't shortcut. You have to do the work. You have to wait until the pieces align, and you can go in as the best candidate, as the known quantity candidate. You don't have to be networked in, especially if you've got a really strong background for something. That networking sure does help, because again, 70% of recruiters, that is like 85% of teams, want to hire someone that somebody knows. And so our goal throughout this whole process is to build those relationships, maintain those relationships, and for looking for ways to help you do that and to help improve that process. I won't say streamline it, because relationships, it's relationships. You don't necessarily want to shortcut it, but there are ways that you can use technology to help do it better. If you're in the career space, check out Tech Jam. No matter when you're listening to this, we've got Tech Jam. We do every year the latest technologies. Here in this 2024 year, you get access to some of the recordings from last year as well as this year's recordings. And we're just super excited to learn about these new technologies that recruiters are using, see the back end, and see some of the other ways that we can use AI in our career services work beyond just generative AI, which of course we'll continue talking about as well. You can always reach out to me at Marie, Marie, at careerthoughtleaders.com if you have a question or a topic you'd like me to cover. And check out our YouTube channel, Career Thought Leaders YouTube channel. And if there's a topic you'd like for me to cover there as well, I'm happy to do that. If you happen to be listening to this real time or closer to real time, our live for July 30th, we're going to do some AMA, Ask Me Anything, around resume topics. I'll be doing some show and tell around some of the ageism tactics and strategies we talked about at the beginning, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions at any time. So feel free to reach out to me, Marie, at careerthoughtleaders.com, and we will see you right back here again next week on The Career Confidant.
Thank you for listening to The Career Confidant. Marie Zimenoff will return again with another terrific guest next Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific on the Voice America Business Channel. Be sure to join us then.